Today's lions mostly live in Africa, with a small population restricted to Gir National Park, India. However, they once roamed further afield. The Eurasian lion prowled mainland Europe and Asia 780,000 years ago, until its extinction 10,000 years ago. North America had its own lion, aptly named the American lion, or cave lion. Some scientists believe this lion evolved from the Eurasian lions that crossed over from Eurasia via the Bering Land Bridge into North America. These first lions that established themselves in North America eventually gave rise to the American lions, and then South America's jaguar. Although the American lion successfully inhabited North America for thousands of years, the continent during the Pleistocene was very different from today. Not only that, but the American lion was a different species from today's African and Asian lions. Just because this prehistoric lion thrived in North America doesn't mean that modern lions would do the same. Here, we look at this possibility and ask the question, could lions survive in North America? In order to answer this question, we need to take into consideration North America's climate, habitat, prey, and competition. If we first look at North America's climate and compare it to that of sub-Saharan Africa, we can find out whether African lions could survive America's climatic conditions. All of Africa's lions inhabit sub-Saharan Africa. The climate in the central and southern regions include tropical savannas, with some arid and temperate climates. Tanzania is home to the greatest population of lions in Africa. Its climate has wide and varied temperatures, from 10 to 20 degrees Celsius, or 50 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit in the highlands, to 31 degrees Celsius, or 88 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer months across the rest of the country. In South Africa's Kruger National Park, temperatures typically range from 16 to 27 degrees Celsius, or 61 to 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Here, there are some 1,600 lions spread across the 7,500 square mile parks. And in Botswana's Chobe National Park, which also has a significant population of lions, the average annual temperatures range from 9 degrees Celsius to 36 degrees Celsius, or 48 to 97 degrees Fahrenheit. Lions are able to thrive in a variety of climates with variable temperatures. In America, the hottest states include Florida, Hawaii, and Louisiana, whilst Alaska has some of the coldest winters around. The southern states have temperature ranges that are more similar to those found where lions naturally live. Areas of California and Arizona are also relatively mild all year round. Broadly speaking, climate doesn't seem to solely determine where lions live. There are plenty of African countries that have hotter and wetter climates than others, and each of these has lions. With the huge variety of climates across the United States, we believe there are plenty of states that lions could survive in, if we just considered climatic conditions. If we now look at habitat, we can see if America offers the space and wilderness that lions require. A pride of lions can maintain a territory from anything as small as 8 square miles to a whopping 150 square miles. Lions are the only cats to live in groups, or prides. These can consist as many as 40 individuals. They occupy a range of habitats except for tropical rainforests. Instead, they prefer grassland, savanna, dense scrub, and open woodland. These habitats where their prey is most abundant and allows them to hunt them using their speed and agility. The grasslands of America's Great Plains could provide the open habitat that lions are used to, but the climate is known for being very cold and harsh in the winter months. These habitats, of course, need to provide an abundance of prey species for lions to hunt. This leads to the prey species that might be available to lions if they lived in North America. Lions are strict carnivores. They are highly adapted to take down medium to large prey. Their sharp canines and claws, coupled with a bite force of 650 psi, make them formidable predators. They have incredibly rough tongues which help them to peel back their prey's skin to get to the flesh underneath. They also function socially, hunting collaboratively as a group, making kills quicker and easier, and enabling them to take down sizable prey. In Africa, their typical prey consists of zebra, wildebeest, antelope, buffalo, giraffe, and wild hogs. In Asia, the lions hunt wild boars, buffalo, antelope, and deer. As Florida seems to have the climate and habitat to enable lions to survive in North America, we will focus on this state when considering prey species. The only deer truly native to Florida is the white-tailed deer. Their numbers were dwindling during the 1930s, but successful management of their population has now resulted in over 700,000 statewide. Other introduced species include red deer, sambar deer, and key deer. However, the numbers of these deers are less than 1,000 individuals for each species, probably not providing enough for lions to prey on. Florida is also home to 12% of America's wild boars. This amounts to huge numbers of them in Florida. It is thought that the damage inflicted on farmland and the native flora and fauna is caused by a population of 500,000 wild boar. In Africa, the wild boar's equivalent is the warthog. These hairy pigs make up a significant portion of the lion's food and are particularly hunted during the dry season, when other prey species are scarce. Florida's Payne's Prairie Preserve is also home to a handful of bison, not enough to sustain any lions. However, if there were still the large herds that once roamed North America, this could provide the right sort of prey a pride of lions would need to survive. When we consider prey, it looks as if there might not be enough to sustain the hungry prides of lions, where there are larger numbers of ungulates, like the bison that roam Yellowstone National Park. The climate isn't favorable for these big cats all year round. Wild boar may end up being the lion's primary prey if lions were introduced to Florida. But would this be sustainable? If lions had survived in North America from the beginning of the Holocene and become established apex predators, it is possible they would have adapted to the seasonal changes. This could either be through migrating to warmer climates during winter or developing behaviors to cope with the cold. This could include partial or full hibernation, a behavior exhibited by some of America's apex predators, the black and brown bears. They may follow food sources, switching from one prey species in the summer to another in the winter, when they head to warmer states. However, movement around a huge, vastly populated country would not be feasible unless wildlife corridors were built. Finally, let's consider the competition that lions might face in North America. In Africa, lions live in the same habitat as other carnivorous predators. Leopards, cheetahs, and hyenas all live side by side with lions. Whilst they try to avoid each other as much as possible, their territories inevitably overlap. But in Africa's great reserves, there is enough space to allow the coexistence of these species. There is enough prey to go around. The climate is favorable for each of these groups of animals, and they largely survive without too much conflict. In America, bears, wolves, coyotes, and mountain lions could compete for food with lions. These species all hunt and catch similar prey. They are well adapted to North America and are established species. Introduced lions may struggle to compete with America's predators for food and territory. Lions have the advantage of being able to hunt in groups. They could tackle some of America's larger ungulates, like red deer that weigh 240 kilograms or 530 pounds, as well as the 1,200 kilogram or 2,600 pound bison. Brown bears also hunt large animals including moose. There would likely be competition for the availability of prey. As apex predators, lions play a crucial role in the ecosystem. By controlling the number of herbivores, they consequently manage the grasslands and vegetation. This has impacts right through the food chain, right down to the smallest invertebrates. If lions were to suddenly inhabit North America, their impact would be felt all the way across the ecosystem, unbalancing the fragile existence of those species already found there. If their ancestors had made America their home thousands of years ago, then it is likely other species that are endemic to and characteristic of North America simply wouldn't exist today. We conclude that it may be possible for lions to call North America their home, but probably not if they were introduced there suddenly. If they had time to adapt their behavior and physical characteristics over thousands of years, then maybe they could survive in North America today. But there is a reason that the prehistoric American lion became extinct. There is a reason that today's lions are only found in Africa and a small part of India. In the wild, speed is crucial for survival, but speed is not a problem for a cheetah, which is the fastest land animal in the world. Globally, cheetahs are famed for their running prowess and strength. Aside from their speed, there are more admirable facts that you should know about this big wild cat. The cheetah is an animal that has a long and slender body that is covered in coarse yellowish fur and dotted with small black spots. Its long tail helps with balance and changing direction quickly, and unlike the rest of the cheetah's body, there are ringed markings along the tail, which ends in a black tip. Cheetahs have small heads with high-set eyes that aid them when surveying the surrounding grasslands for potential prey. They also have distinctive black tear marks that run from the inner eye, along with their nose and down to the outside of their mouths, which are thought to help protect them from being blinded by the bright sun. The exceptional speed of the cheetah is caused by several things, including having strong hind legs and an incredibly flexible and muscular spine, which allows the cheetah to not only sprint quickly, but also makes them very agile. They also have non-retractable claws which dig into the ground, giving the cheetah a better grip at high speed. Body lengths of cheetahs range from 1.1 to 1.5 meters, or 3.9 to 4.9 feet, and the height at the shoulder ranges from 67 to 94 centimeters, or 2.2 to 3.1 feet. Their weights average from 21 to 72 kilograms, or 46 to 158 pounds, with the average male larger than the average female. The cheetah is an animal that once had a vast historical range that stretched across several continents, but their distribution today is much more scattered, with a small number found in Iran and the majority found in sub-Saharan Africa. Although cheetahs are still found in a few different parts of eastern and southern Africa, the highest population of wild cheetahs is now found in Namibia in southwestern Africa. Cheetahs are most commonly found stalking prey on the vast, open grasslands, but they are also found in a variety of other habitats as well, including deserts, dense vegetation, and mountainous terrain, providing that there are both adequate supplies of food and water. Cheetahs have a unique social order among felids. Adult females are solitary, while adult males are not. Adult females interact with adult males only long enough to breed, and females raise their cubs on their own. At 18 months, the mother leaves the cubs, who then form a sibling group that stays together for another 6 months. At about 2 years, the female siblings leave the group and become solitary, while the young males remain together for life in a group called a coalition. A coalition is usually made up of 2 to 3 litter mates and is a very tightly bonded group. Singleton males are not common and usually do not survive long. This coalition will live and hunt together for life, claiming a territory, which may encompass several female home ranges. The cheetah has exceptional eyesight, and so hunts using sight by first stalking its prey and then chasing it when the time is right. Cheetahs often kill their prey in vast open spaces, but tend to drag it into a hiding place to prevent it from being scavenged by other animals. The cheetah has to do this, as it cannot eat its prey straight away since they are immensely hot after the chase and need time to cool down before it can feast. Cheetahs are carnivorous animals, meaning that they only hunt and kill other animals to get the nutrition they need to survive. They mainly hunt large herbivores including gazelle and some large antelope species such as wildebeest, along with zebras and smaller mammals like hares. The exact diet of the cheetah, though, tends to depend on its location. The adult cheetah is a dominant predator in its environment and is therefore not seen as prey by other large predators. The cheetah cubs, however, are incredibly vulnerable, particularly when their mother is off hunting, and are preyed upon by some animals including lions and hyenas, but also large avian species such as eagles and vultures. The biggest threat to cheetahs is people, who have not only taken vast areas of their natural habitat for themselves, but have also turned large regions of land into national parks. Although these areas seem to be showing increases in both lion and hyena populations, cheetah numbers are much lower as there is more competition for food with the increasing numbers of these other large predators. Today, the cheetah has been listed by the IUCN as a species that is vulnerable to extinction in its natural environment in the near future. Habitat loss, along with the increase of national parks that are home to a large number of competing predators, has led to drastic declines in the world's cheetah population. As you can see, cheetahs are strong cats and have amazing qualities, but can they cope in North America? There are 6 species of wild cats native to North America: bobcat, cougar, Canada lynx, ocelot, jaguarundi, and jaguar. Of all of those cats, the cougar is the most prolific and lives from Canada all of the way through Argentina. Cougars can be found in a wide range of habitats, including deserts, savannas, tropical rainforests, and alpine steppes. Both molecular and morphologic studies suggest that the cougar's origin dates to 5 to 8 million years ago, when their ancestors diverged from the cheetah's ancestors. After a time in which the American cheetah, which, despite its name, was actually a cougar and was nowhere near related to modern cheetahs, thrived, roamed the wilderness without being surpassed, and hunted pronghorns with relative ease. It suddenly went extinct around 10,000 years ago, and its extinction coincided with that of numerous North American mammals, including mammoths, saber-toothed cats, cave lions, and woolly rhinos. It is believed that there are 2 culprits behind the species' extinction. The first was the changing climate that occurred by the end of the Ice Age and warmed the Earth up, thus decimating the megafauna that couldn't stand the heat, while the other was the depletion of prey populations, which in turn led to a heavy decline in American cheetah populations, an event that lowered genetic variability and gave way to a population bottleneck. Some scientists believe that there was probably a combination of both factors that induced the American cheetah's eradication. There's no question that a cheetah could hunt successfully in North America. Most deer are not as agile as an average gazelle, which is the edge a gazelle has in a chase. The cheetah has incredible speed, but it lacks the ability to change directions as quickly as a gazelle. The white-tailed deers, for example, are pretty bulky, but they can't change direction very well. Of course, cheetahs are only able to survive in open areas. They're not suited to living in forests. This means that the southern United States is almost ideal for them. There are plenty of large open plains they can live in, and they provide the prey they can hunt, such as deer and pronghorn. The only problem would be the local predators. Wolves, bears, mountain lions, and even coyotes can pose a serious threat to cheetahs. While cheetahs can probably take on a single coyote at most, the other animals would make things very difficult. The only counters for this one problem are that they would most often hunt what the local predators often give up on, and most of these predators are nocturnal, while the cheetah is diurnal. Plus, bears aren't going to be that frequent in desert environments, so they don't have to worry too much. However, you cannot take a species from an entirely different continent and climate and expect it to thrive. Very few species can survive in novel environments without human help. The rare exceptions become invasive species because they have a competitive advantage over the native species of the area. Elephants are the largest land mammals on Earth and have distinctly massive bodies, large ears, and long trunks. They use their trunks to pick up objects, trumpet warnings, greet other elephants, or suck up water for drinking or bathing, among other uses. Both male and female African elephants grow tusks, and each individual can either be left or right tusked, and the one they use more is usually smaller because of wear and tear. Elephant tusks serve many purposes. These extended teeth can be used to protect the elephant's trunk, lift and move objects, gather food, and strip bark from trees. They can also be used for defense. During times of drought, elephants use their tusks to dig holes to find water underground. 2 genetically different African species exist: the savanna elephant and the forest elephant, with several characteristics that differentiate them both. The African savanna elephant is the largest elephant species, while the Asian forest elephant and the African forest elephant are of comparable, smaller size. Asian elephants differ in several ways from their African relatives, with more than 10 distinct physical differences between them. For example, Asian elephants' ears are smaller compared to the large fan-shaped ears of the African species. Only some male Asian elephants have tusks, while both male and female African elephants grow tusks. The social life of many elephants revolves around herds and small groups. An elephant herd consists mostly of closely related female cows and their calves, which are led by a single matriarch who helps the entire group find food and water, avoid predators, and locate a shelter. The oldest daughter is almost always poised to inherit the matriarchal position upon the mother's death. A typical herd consists of around 10 individuals. If the herd grows too large, then some elephants may split off and form a new semi-independent group. The male bulls, on the other hand, either wander alone or form bachelor groups within specific dominance hierarchies. The males are much more likely to gather together during times of scarcity or in the presence of threats. They only come into contact with females when they want to mate. Elephants have all manner of ways to communicate with each other. The trunk seems to play a critical part in this. A raised trunk seems to indicate a greeting. A lower-ranking member of the herd will also place its tip into the mouth of a higher-ranked individual, perhaps as a conciliatory gesture. Despite the iconic trumpeting sounds, many of the noises produced by the elephant to communicate over long distances are actually too low for the human ear to detect. They also produce a growling noise from the stomach that seems to signify to others they are okay. Depending on the availability of food, the elephant may spend up to 18 hours a day feeding. The rest of the time is occupied by sleeping, bathing, cleaning itself, and bonding with the rest of the group. Playing and fighting are integral parts of their behavior. They tend to spar playfully with other elephants close to their own age. The elephant inhabits the savannas, deserts, marshes, and forests near rivers of sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. The Indian, Sumatran, Borneo, and Sri Lankan elephants are generally correspondent to those particular geographical regions, but this range is actually reduced from its greatest historical extent. The Asian elephant, for example, once had a much larger range stretching between Syria and China. The African forest elephant is now reduced to a small piece of land in the Congo Basin of Western Africa. The elephant is a herbivorous mammal whose only source of nutrients is vegetation. It needs an enormous amount of food to sustain itself. A typical individual consumes up to 330 pounds of food in a single day, although up to half of this may pass through the body without being properly digested. Elephants will eat almost any type of vegetation, including grasses, leaves, fruits, twigs, roots, and bark. The exact composition of its diet tend to vary based on location and season. Herbivores generally have two different strategies for obtaining food: browsing, in which they selectively feed on shrubs and trees above the ground, and grazing, in which they lightly feed on vegetation along the ground. Many elephants are both browsers in the dry season and grazers in the wet season. Aside from natural predators, the animal is under threat from poaching due to the value of their tusks, habitat loss, and growing conflict with people. Some of these threats are amplifying each other. As the animal's natural habitat diminishes from the spread of agriculture and residential housing, it comes into contact with people, which can result in trampled crops and damaged properties. This, in turn, may cause people to retaliate against them. A full-grown adult elephant faces no consistent threats in the wild. Its massive size and thick hide make it almost impervious to attacks. However, a juvenile calf may be vulnerable to hyenas, lions, tigers, leopards, and African wild dogs, so it seeks protection from the group. As everybody knows, elephants are extremely strong animals and have amazing qualities, but can they cope in North America? There are no elephants in North America now. However, 5 species of Proboscidea, the order in which elephants belong, roamed the lands of North America 13,000 years ago, which also included mammoths, dwarf mammoths, and mastodons. Skeletons of these gigantic creatures have been excavated in large numbers from various sites in regions like Naco, Arizona, and New York State. There have been several theories and speculations about the extinction of elephants from North America. One of them is the overkill hypothesis. The Clovis people, or the Paleo-Indians, were the first humans to arrive in North America in the late Pleistocene epoch around 13,000 years ago, which, as one may notice, is the same period when the elephants vanished, resulted in large-scale hunting of these creatures for food and skin, which eventually led to severe dwindling in their populations, termed as megafaunal crisis. Finally, after having coexisted for about a millennium with humans, the beasts lost the battle and became extinct. While the overkill hypothesis is the most credible theory, some archaeologists argue that even though the final blow to the species was dealt by humans, their population was already falling down by the time they had arrived. They claim the abrupt fluctuation in climate, a 1,300-year-long cold snap that took place around the time, as the most important reason behind their extinction. Asian elephants would probably thrive on the Gulf Coast. Florida, with its tropical climate and jungle-like habitats, would be an elephant paradise. The Everglades are a perfect place for these animals. The dense vegetation would be more than enough to support them. Asian elephants are also great swimmers, are no strangers to swampy terrain, and are perfectly suited to surviving floods. They are also known for island hopping and reaching new territories in search of food. The Caribbean might just get invaded by these animals as well, just like how Indonesia and Thailand were in their native habitat. African forest elephants fill a similar niche to Asian elephants, so they would probably also like the Gulf Coast, because they also like warm tropical forests. They would prefer drier parts of the region though. They aren't as fond of swimming as their Asian relatives. African bush elephants would prefer southern US states and Mexico. Any place which doesn't experience snowfall and isn't an outright desert would make a suitable bush elephant habitat. They are well adapted to surviving droughts and heat and would probably have no problem adapting to the North American continent. Due to their size, they won't worry about predators unless you focus on the calves, which they have to worry about wolves, bears, and possibly mountain lions. The largest species of cat in the world, tigers are powerful hunters with sharp teeth, strong jaws, and agile bodies. Human beings have been fascinated by tigers for millennia. Tiger images first appeared as a cultural symbol nearly 5,000 years ago in the area known as Pakistan. Tigers were a part of the games in the Roman Colosseum. The body size and morphology vary considerably among subspecies of tigers. Siberian tigers, also known as Amur tigers, are the largest subspecies, with males weighing up to 660 pounds or 300 kilograms and measuring 10 feet or 3 meters. Sumatran tigers are the smallest subspecies, maxing out at 310 pounds or 140 kilograms and 8 feet or 2.4 meters. Female tigers of all subspecies tend to be smaller than their male counterparts. Tigers historically occupied a range that stretched from the eastern part of Turkey to the Tibetan Plateau, Manchuria, and the Sea of Okhotsk. Today, tigers occupy only about 7% of their former range. More than half of the remaining wild tigers live in the forests of India. Smaller populations remain in China, Russia, and parts of Southeast Asia. Tigers inhabit a wide range of habitats, such as lowland evergreen forests, taiga, grasslands, tropical forests, and mangrove swamps. They generally require habitat with covers such as forests or grasslands, water resources, and enough territory to support their prey. Tigers are solitary. The only long-term relationship is between a mother and her offspring. Tigers are most active at night, when their wild ungulate prey are most active. Although they can be active at any time of the day, tigers prefer to hunt in dense vegetation and along routes where they can move quietly. In snow, Tigers select routes on frozen riverbeds, in paths made by ungulates, or anywhere else that has a reduced snow depth. Tigers have tremendous leaping ability, being able to leap from 22 to 33 feet. Tigers are apex predators, preying on large and medium-sized animals, including ungulates that can weigh up to 2,000 pounds. They can take down a sambar deer, wild boars, and adult gaurs. Tigers are also opportunistic hunters, and they feed on smaller prey like peafowl, monkeys, hares, porcupines, fish, and ground-based birds. They occasionally hunt rhinoceros and elephant calves, as well as other predators such as leopards, crocodiles, pythons, and wild dogs. They use a stealthy approach, taking advantage of every rock, tree, and bush as cover, and rarely chase prey far. Tigers are silent, taking cautious steps and keeping low to the ground so they are not sighted or heard by the prey. They typically kill by ambushing prey, throwing the prey off balance with their mass as they leap onto it. Tigers are successful predators, but only 1 out of 10 to 20 attacks result in a successful hunt. Tigers use one of 2 tactics when they get close enough to kill. Small animals, weighing less than half the body weight of the tiger, are killed by a bite to the back of the neck. The canines are inserted between the neck vertebrae, forcing them apart and breaking the spinal cord. For larger animals, a bite to the throat is used to crush the animal's trachea and suffocate it. The throat bite is the safer killing tactic because it minimizes any physical assault the tiger may receive while trying to kill its prey. After the prey is taken to cover, tigers feed first on the buttocks, using the carnassials to rip open the carcass. Not all of the prey is eaten. Some parts are rejected. Prey are usually dragged to cover and can be left there and revisited over several days. Tigers communicate through facial expressions and vocally. The most common facial expression includes the defense threat, where an individual bares its teeth, flattens its ears, and its pupils enlarge. Like other members of their family, tigers roar, particularly in aggressive situations, during the mating season, or when making a kill. Because of their size and strength, adult tigers don't have many predators. Humans are predators of this animal. Elephants and bears can also pose a threat to them. Tiger cubs have a lot more predators than adults. Hyenas, crocodiles, and snakes are just a few of the predators of cubs. Live tigers are of economic importance in zoos, where they are displayed to the public, and in wildlife areas where they may bring in tourism. Tigers are illegally killed for their fur to make rugs and wall hangings. In addition, for more than 3,000 years, traditional Chinese medicine has used tiger parts to treat sickness and injury. Some believe that tiger bones will help them become as strong and ferocious as the tiger. Normally, tigers avoid human contact. Very rarely, tigers may become man-eaters. A man-eating tigress was rumored to have killed over 430 people, including 234 over the course of 4 years. It is thought that man-eating tigers are those that cannot effectively prey on large ungulates because they have become crippled, are old, or no longer have suitable native habitat and prey available. Because human populations are rapidly increasing, competition over natural resources is increasing pressure on tigers and their habitat, and increasing the likelihood of negative human-tiger interactions. As everybody knows, tigers are extremely strong animals and have amazing qualities. But can they cope in North America? Tigers would do great in North America, at least parts of it. They are predators of boreal forests, so North American forests would probably feel right at home. They would probably hunt deer, moose, and elk primarily. They could adapt to attacking bison eventually, but might struggle at first against such large animals. However, tigers would be a huge problem for American predators. A tiger is more than a match for any predator North America has to offer. They kill leopards in India, so they'd probably take out cougars all the time. They suppress wolf numbers whenever they occur, and would in North America too. They hunt bears in India and Russia and would destroy native black and grizzly bears. The North American continent has many predators: gray wolf, red wolf, mountain lion, bobcat, and lynx, to name a few. They weigh between 40 to 200 pounds, or 18 to 92 kilograms. Jaguars, which weigh between 120 and 220 pounds, or 56 to 96 kilograms, are also native to Southwest North America. The largest predator on the North American continent is the polar bear, at 770 to 1,500 pounds, or 250 to 700 kilograms. During prehistoric times, North America was home to several large predators, including the American lion, which was approximately 30% larger than today's African lion, dire wolf, or scimitar-toothed cats. All these animals became extinct for one reason or another. For an invasive species to take hold, it basically has to be able to fit an existing ecological niche and outcompete the original species. This would be the main problem for a tiger. There is no ecological niche in North America for a predator that weighs between 200 and 600 pounds, or 90 to 300 kilograms. American wildlife would probably adapt to tigers within a few generations, but it would be a difficult process, which could lead to the extinction of several animal species. Another big issue would be humans, who would probably hunt and persecute the tigers for messing with big game and livestock. Spotted hyenas are the largest and most common hyena species in Africa. They have a sturdy build, long neck, high shoulders, and long muscular legs, with the forelegs longer than hind legs, and 4 toes on each foot with non-retractable claws. The head is massive, with rounded ears and robust teeth adapted for chewing bones. The coat is rough, comparatively short, and ranges in color from reddish-brown to tan, growing lighter and less spotted with age. Spots are black and rounded. The tail tip, muzzle, and lower parts of limbs are dark brown. The jaws are probably the strongest compared to the size of any mammal, helping hyenas to utilize virtually everything on a carcass except the rumen contents and horn bosses. Spotted hyenas can weigh up to 70 kilograms, but average between 45 and 55 kilograms, with the females being slightly larger than the males. They are, on average, 90 to 170 centimeters long, with a height of 70 to 92 centimeters. Spotted hyenas are the most abundant large carnivore in Africa. Originally distributed nearly all over Africa and Eurasia, they now only occur in sub-Saharan Africa, and their distribution is fragmented. In many countries, large populations still exist in protected areas. The highest densities occur in the Serengeti Mara ecosystem in northern Tanzania and southern Kenya. They can survive in a variety of habitats, but like to live where there are lots of zebras and antelopes. This includes grasslands, savannas, woodlands, and sometimes even the mountains. Spotted hyenas are carnivores. They eat other animals of all types. They either hunt on their own or scavenge the kills of other larger animals like lions. They are particularly good scavengers because they can crush bones with their powerful jaws and can eat and digest them. When they hunt, they typically hunt wildebeests, gazelles, and zebras. However, they also will hunt snakes, young hippos, elephants, and even fish. Renowned for their exceptional sense of smell, hyenas also have very acute hearing, along with a high level of intelligence. These enable the hyena to have an almost unrivaled ability to detect, pinpoint, and rapidly locate a source of food. This could be as a result of hearing distress calls or urgent alarm calls, where another predator might be busy killing something, smelling a carcass from far away, seeing vultures descending, or sometimes just having that elusive sixth sense, which leads them to a meal. Once hyenas detect some drama that could be unfolding, they have an incredible knack of getting there just in time to spoil someone else's party. Their speed sometimes leads them to where a leopard is busy strangling an impala before the leopard has had a chance to secure its prey. One of the most misunderstood animals, the spotted hyena has a reputation as being sly and cowardly, but is, in fact, fascinating and intelligent, with a remarkable social system. With a large frontal cortex, hyenas are excellent problem solvers, sometimes even outperforming great apes in problem-solving tests. Observations suggest they may plan hunts in advance. Their intelligence is likely due to their complex social system and flexible feeding habits. Spotted hyenas live in large groups, sometimes up to 90. Within these groups, females are dominant. Even the lowest-ranking female is dominant to the highest-ranking male. Dominance hierarchies are passed from mothers to daughters and are maintained through cooperative alliances between individuals. Spotted hyenas live in a fission-fusion society. This means clan members do not remain together continuously, but instead frequently forage alone or in small groups. Clan members cooperate in the communal defense of the territory, food resources, and the clan den. All females in a spotted hyena clan bring their cubs to one large den site and raise their babies until they are old enough to travel with their mothers. Spotted hyenas is one of the top predators in Africa. However, several species may kill them. In one study, 13 of 24 hyena carcasses found were killed by lions. Hyenas and lions compete directly for food and often scavenge each other's kills. This competition often leads to antagonistic encounters that may result in death. In addition, humans often kill hyenas in numerous ways. In an increasing overpopulated Africa, hyenas and humans come into frequent contact. In fact, the Maasai people of Kenya and Tanzania actually leave their dead to be consumed by hyenas. However, these intelligent and bold animals will raid food stores and crops and are blamed for many livestock and even some human deaths. In some areas, they have been heavily hunted as destructive pests. As you can see, spotted hyenas are great hunters and have amazing qualities. But can they cope in North America? Mexico, the United States, and Canada may be the largest and most prominent countries in North America. But this continent, the third largest in the world, is home to 23 sovereign states and 23 non-sovereign states that stretch all the way from Central America up through Greenland. The sheer scope of the continent means that practically any ecosystem on Earth can be found in North America. From the snowy tundras of Greenland to the tropics of Costa Rica, deserts, forests, mountains, and everything in between occupy this territory along with the rich variety of animals you'd expect to find. During prehistoric times, the Ice Age, which was known to be an uprising of many awesome predators, including the cave hyena, or the Ice Age spotted hyena. It was a highly specialized animal, with its progressive and regressive features being more developed than its modern African relative, which means the cave hyena indeed adapted very well to survive in the coldest environment. But after some time, possibly due to climate change, the species went extinct. Spotted hyenas are found in a large variety of habitats south of the Sahara and outside the Congo. They can live in varying climates, including very cold ones, as long as there are enough prey animals to sustain them. All of the current hyena subspecies, including the spotted and striped ones, are furry mammals. As such, they possess fur that does a perfect job in shielding their bodies from the icy cold. The fact that hyenas once lived in Europe, covering areas from Spain and Portugal to the Ural Mountains, confirms it. This was at a time when megafauna like mastodons, mammoths, and giant sloths was on the scene. However, mass extinction of the megafauna took place right at the end of the Pleistocene age, about 12,000 years ago. And scientists think that the loss of these animals along with climate change and the arrival of humans from Africa caused the hyenas to become extinct in Europe. Hyenas can easily hunt a large variety of prey items, ranging from deer to possibly pronghorn to elk, mustangs, and even moose and bison. Due to their size, powerfully built bodies, and social behavior, they can take on the larger native predators. Bears may be the only native animal that can take on a pack of hyenas, but they may be overwhelmed by them.
Mountain lions would only be able to take on a single hyena, but a pack would destroy any mountain lion, and wolves would be outcompeted by hyenas as they are bolder, bigger, and have a more devastating bite. However, you cannot take a species from an entirely different continent and climate and expect it to thrive. Very few species can survive in novel environments without human help. The rare exceptions become invasive species because they have a competitive advantage over the native species of the area.
Komodo dragons are the largest lizards in the world, growing up to 10 feet long and weighing up to 150 pounds. These lizards are renowned the world over for their formidable presence. It was once thought that their saliva was so toxic from all the bacteria living in their mouths that victims died from sepsis after a single bite. It has now been discovered that the Komodo dragon releases venom from glands in its mouth. This acts as an anticoagulant and causes excessive blood loss in their victims. They can attack and consume prey much larger than themselves, tearing flesh from a carcass or swallowing the animal whole. They are largely solitary lizards, but come together for mating and sometimes feeding. There is a hierarchy at feeding sites, and scuffles sometimes break out. They use their incredibly muscly and powerful tails to support them on their hind legs as they rise up to wrestle one another or reach elevated food. Komodo dragons are found on the islands within Komodo National Park, Indonesia. These consist of the lesser Sundas and include Rentja, Padar, Flores, and Komodo Island. But could they survive in North America? To answer this question, let's look into some of the things required for these animals to survive and thrive. We can consider the habitat and climate in North America, as well as the prey species available to them, and any threats such as those from predators or human activity. Firstly, habitat and climate. On their native Indonesian islands, Komodo dragons occupy hot, dry places. They prefer open grasslands, savannas, and tropical rainforests. Being cold-blooded, like all reptiles, Komodo dragons rely on the sun's heat for movement, metabolism, and digestion. Usually, after feeding on a large meal, Komodo dragons will find a hot, sunny spot to lie in. This speeds up digestion, which is essential when they've eaten up to 80% of their body weight in one go. Undigested food can spoil inside the dragon, causing severe illness or death. In North America, the state with a climate most similar to the Indonesian islands is Florida. With a tropical climate in its southern regions and an average annual temperature of 71.5 degrees Fahrenheit, Florida could provide the right sort of weather for Komodo dragons to survive. The average annual rainfall in Florida is about 54 inches, whilst on Komodo Island, it is just over 60 inches. Komodo dragons drink water from water holes, especially after a large meal, in order to help with digestion. They get most of their moisture from their food. The Florida Dry Prairie is a treeless expanse of grasslands that extends throughout the subtropical zone in Florida South. It is comparable to some of the open grasslands and savannas found on the islands of Komodo National Park. Komodo dragons also need soft ground to dig burrows and nests. The sandy soils of Florida's dry prairie may enable the dragons to dig easily. The burrows they dig in the soil are usually between 3 and 10 feet wide. They provide shelter and are used by the lizards to sleep in and conserve body heat. The nests that the female Komodo dragons dig are camouflaged to avoid predation. She sometimes lays her eggs in the nest of some ground-dwelling birds, covering them in soil and foliage to keep them warm and moist. She can lay up to 20 eggs at a time. The young hatch 7 to 8 months later and spend most of their time in trees to avoid predation. Komodo dragons are such expert diggers that they've been known to dig up human bodies from shallow graves. Locals now only bury their dead in clay soils and with a pile of rocks over the grave to prevent the dragons from digging them up. Now, let's consider prey. Komodo dragons are ambush predators. They frequently set up ambush sites that are cleared of vegetation and marked with their droppings. When prey, such as a deer, approaches, the Komodo will suddenly run or launch itself at it. They can reach speeds of up to 12 miles per hour and are capable of leaping up to 15 feet forwards. When hunting, they aim to bite the underside or throat of the animal. Contrary to popular belief, Komodos aim to kill most of their prey instantly, rather than waiting for the venomous saliva to do the work. However, injured prey does sometimes succumb to infection caused by bite wounds. Komodo dragons have poor vision and poor hearing, but their exceptional sense of smell helps them to detect carrion up to 6 miles away. They constantly flick their tongue in and out of their mouths and sway their heads from side to side in the characteristic gait they are famed for. Like all lizards, Komodo dragons possess Jacob's organ, which is an olfactory organ situated in the nasal cavity. It is used to analyze scent molecules collected on the lizard's tongue and pointed in the direction of potential prey. Prey species include invertebrates, other reptiles, birds, eggs, and mammals such as monkeys, wild boars, goats, pigs, deer, horses, and water buffalo. Young Komodos will also eat insects and small mammals such as rodents. Komodo dragons are also big carrion eaters, homing in on dead carcasses from miles away. If feeding on large animals, Komodo dragons can survive on just 12 meals a year. In North America, there would be plenty of prey species that are similar to those favored by Komodo dragons in their natural habitats. Deer are abundant across North America. In Indonesia, Sunda sambar deer are the Komodo's favorite prey. They typically weigh between 100 and 250 pounds and stand 30 to 40 inches at the shoulder. This is comparable to America's mule deer. Even America's abundant white-tailed deer could be considered within the Komodo dragon's size range for deer kills. North American deer species that are considerably larger than the dragon's usual include elk, moose, and caribou. However, Komodo dragons do take down huge water buffalo, relying on their venom and deep bite wounds to eventually kill the animal from blood loss and infection. If they occupied similar habitats to these large deer species in North America, then they could certainly be on their menu. Rodents would provide food for Komodo dragons throughout America. Small rodents such as mice, rats, and voles are found in abundance, and larger rodents like marmots, woodchucks, and beavers are also found throughout North America. Wild hogs, like those found in Indonesia, are in all counties of Florida, the state we consider most favorable for its climate and habitat. These animals could all be considered prey for the dragons if they were to inhabit the states. Finally, let's look at threats to Komodo dragons. Komodo dragons are apex predators in their natural habitat. Apart from fights between conspecifics, they are rarely attacked by other animals. Their skin is incredibly tough. It is covered in small bone-like structures called osteoderms, which act like natural chainmail for defense. The biggest threats to Komodo dragons are the destruction of their habitat and climate change. Ongoing human activities destroy Komodo habitats, and they are now considered endangered by the IUCN. Furthermore, as global temperatures and sea levels continue to rise, their habitat is likely to decrease by at least 30% over the next 45 years. Florida, which we believe to be suitable habitat for dragons, is also at risk from rising sea levels, and its wildlife is in danger from invasive species, climate change, loss of habitat, urbanization, and pollution. In conclusion, we believe that Komodo dragons could survive in North America. We have suggested Florida because of the similarities of its climate, habitat, and prey to Komodo National Park in Indonesia, with its grassland prairies, surrounding woodland, and biodiverse Everglades. Florida is also home to the abundant wildlife that Komodo dragons could hunt. But there are other states that deliver more of the same. Hawaii, Louisiana, and Texas are some of the hottest states. The Great Plains running down the center of North America offer open grasslands, and Texas has the highest population of white-tailed deer in North America. Although Komodo dragons don't actively hunt humans, there are reports of attacks on locals which have proven fatal.
Having the largest lizard in the world roaming around the United States may be an awesome sight, but it may also be the last thing you see. The rhino. These mammals are most famous for their characteristic horn, or horns, their thick, armor-like skin, and their huge, stocky build. Today, there are 5 species of rhino. These are the white and black rhinos found in Africa. The Indian rhino is found in India and Nepal, with 1 pair in Pakistan. The tiny population of just 60 Javan rhinos is restricted entirely to Ujung Kulon National Park in Java. And the Sumatran rhino, whose population numbers less than 300 in Sumatra and Borneo. No wild rhinos currently live in North America, but this wasn't always the case. In fact, it is thought that today's rhinos living in Africa and Asia had a common ancestor in America. Scientists believe that rhinos originated in North America before spreading across Eurasia and then into Africa. In America, the lineage of mammals that eventually evolved into rhinos had a common ancestor with today's tapirs. The name of this common ancestor was Hyraceus. It was a hornless mammal with the hooves of a tapir and teeth of a rhino. It was about the size of a large dog. They lived across North America and Eurasia during the Eocene. Then, approximately 60 million years ago, the superfamily Rhinocerotidae diverged from tapirs, and scientists believe this divergence occurred in either Eurasia or North America. If it was in North America, then that is where the rhino lineage began. From this superfamily of rhino-like mammals, more than 100 species evolved and radiated across Africa, Eurasia, and North and Central America. Most of these species became extinct before the Pleistocene, more than 2.5 million years ago. 9 species survived into the late Pleistocene, and some beyond. Between the many species of prehistoric rhinos, there were significant differences in physical characteristics. Many of the ancient rhinos were actually hornless, and interestingly, there was one rhino native to North America, Menoceros, with 2 horns arranged side by side at the tip of its nose, rather than one in front of the other. The Rhinocerotidae was divided into 3 family groups, which included the Hyracodontidea, Emenodontinae, and Rhinocerotidae. The Hyracodontidea were horse-like animals that ranged in size from that of a dog to one of the largest mammals ever to have walked the earth. This giant, hornless rhinoceros was called Paraceratherium and stood at almost 5 meters or 16 feet tall at the shoulder. Its fossils have mostly been found across Eurasia, so this particular rhino-like animal was unlikely to have stepped foot on North American soil. The 2 other families included in the superfamily are the hippo-like Amenodontidae and Rhinocerotidae, from which all modern-day rhinos evolved. Fossils from these 2 families have been found across Eurasia and North America. Fossils of Amenodontidae have been found in Eastern Asia, Central Europe, and North America. Some members of this family were hippo-like in appearance and lived a semi-aquatic lifestyle, while others were mostly land-based, with a tapir-like proboscis and small tusks which they used as a defense against predators and rivals. Within Rhinocerotidae, there were at least 26 different genera that inhabited Eurasia and North America. The ancestors of today's rhinos were some of the most widespread mammal groups in North America. They existed there for almost 40 million years. If we focus on just a couple of prehistoric rhinos, we can understand why they became extinct from North America. 2 common genera roaming from Africa's Great Plains were the Teleoceras and Ephelops. These animals lived on the continent 17.5 to 5 million years ago. They were the last known genera of Rhinocerotidae to inhabit North America. Once they became extinct, there is no fossil evidence of Rhinocerotidae found in America. Teleoceras rhinos were similar in size and shape to modern-day hippos, but lived on land. They grazed grasses and brush on the open plains. They had a small horn on the top of their nose and shorter legs than today's rhinos. Their fossils are commonly found throughout the Great Plains and,
From these, scientists have had a glimpse into the social structure and behavior of these rhinos. The groups were predominantly female, with males dying at much younger ages. This was due to battles for mates and injuries that occurred from clashes. It is thought that they used their horn and tusk-like teeth to fight. Today, rhinos also fight in this way, inflicting injuries on rival males. The Ephelops was another rhino that also coexisted with Teleoceras in North America. From fossilized dentition and skull morphology, it has been assumed that they were more browsers rather than grazers. They had a prehensile upper lip, similar to today's black rhinos. This enabled them to pick up leaves from trees and shrubs rather than graze on grasses. They had longer limbs than other prehistoric rhinos, suggesting that it was good at running. It is often referred to as the running rhino. It is thought that they lived in herds, probably as a means of protection from predators, like many prey species today. So why did these two genera of prehistoric rhinos become extinct in North America? What happened to them? The answer lies in the food they ate. As the climate naturally changed, so too did the vegetation. These prehistoric rhinos grazed C3 plants. These were the predominant plant species found in North America at the time. The name C3 refers to the 3 carbon compounds produced during carbon fixation. This is a way in which plants utilize carbon to create energy in the form of carbohydrates. Even today, C3 plants are very common. They are most efficient in cool, wet climates. When the climate began to cool and precipitation reduced, the earth became drier. This happened approximately 17 to 14 million years ago during the mid-Miocene. These changes in environmental conditions resulted in a significant shift in the flora. C3 plants gave way to more advanced C4 plants. This flora was able to thrive on less rainfall and, even today, is less common, but still dominates grasslands where there is little rainfall. By 6.5 million years ago, these plants had expanded across the Great Plains. The herbivores that couldn't adapt to a change in their diet struggled to survive as the plant communities and vegetation structure altered. However, the 2 rhinoceros genera Teleoceras and Ephelops initially survived this ecological pressure. They were able to adapt their feeding behaviors and incorporate more C4 vegetation into their diets. Although their numbers declined to about 60% of previous populations, they slowly recovered. But 5 million years ago, their numbers declined once more. This time, they were unable to recover and did not survive. Whilst rhinos became extinct in North America, their relatives continued to live throughout Eurasia and Africa. 16 million years ago, the 2 African species split from the Asian rhinos. It is likely that they traveled down from Eurasia and settled in Africa. The Eurasian lineage gave rise to the Asian rhinos, which included extinct species like Merck's rhinoceros, as well as the more famous woolly rhinoceros. Interestingly, today's Sumatran rhino is the most closely related extant species to the woolly rhino. They diverged from a common ancestor 9.4 million years ago. The woolly rhinoceros was adapted to live in the cold, with its long, shaggy fur, a trait that the Sumatran rhino has partly shared, as it has a thin layer of fur covering its body. Over the millennia, there have been wide and varied members of the rhino family. They have ranged from the size of a dog to a colossal giant standing 16 feet tall. Some have 1 horn, others have 2, and some have none. But their evolutionary journey may yet be over. Researchers from Cambridge University have measured the horns of all 5 extant species from photographs taken over the last 100 years. In all 5 species, there is a significant reduction in their horn sizes over the past century. The team believes this physical change in rhino horn is due to excessive poaching. Those with the largest horns are huge targets for poachers. Rhino horns fetch a huge price on the black market and are still used in traditional medicine in China and Vietnam. The smaller horned rhinos that aren't hunted therefore survive and pass their small horn genes down to the next generation. From some of the most abundant species on the planet, to some of the most critically endangered, rhinos have had an interesting and varied evolutionary history, and it would be incredible if we could keep these fascinating animals alive for future generations to enjoy. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.